Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So, how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and today we are going to talk about digital marketing and ads. And I'm super excited because I think a lot of you have heard about it, you're curious about it, but maybe you've not dipped your toes into the water yet. And so I'm really excited because we have a fabulous expert on today who is going to help you understand better. So today, our special guest is Danielle Migliaccio-Morse. She has been in the digital marketing world for over 13 years. Before Facebook owned Instagram, before it was known as Meta, she's been working with clients ranging from Broadway shows to small local businesses, as well as some lawyers, just because I already know this about Danielle, to six-figure and seven-figure online entrepreneurs. She has helped brands turn their ads from being in the red to a 100% increase in sales revenue year over year, which, as someone who runs ads, that's amazing. So, welcome to Hustle and Flow, Danielle.
Hello.
For those who are listening that are not in the online business world or they're not in the marketing world, they may think they know what digital marketing is, but I'm curious, like maybe we should just define that. How do you define digital marketing?
Digital marketing itself, I would say, is everything online. Emails, even your text messages these days, your website, your organic social media, and your paid ads. So it's kind of how everything all works together. And then you get to the digital ad side, that's just the paid aspects of it.
So, how did you get into digital marketing?
Well, I started in the theater world. I live in New York City, so I grown up, love the theater, always been a performing arts kid. So finding a way to be like, oh, I can do marketing for Broadway shows, like that's a really awesome way to take my two interests and kind of combine them. And I fell into internships that happened to be in digital marketing, and I loved all the numbers and the data. I'm a very analytical person, even though I'm also kind of artsy, balance of the brain here. So I just loved all the numbers. I love that you could track everything online and really figure out what was working. It was kind of this big puzzle. And then eventually I decided to stick with the marketing and learn more about other types of businesses and branch out. And that's how I've been able to work with everything from small local businesses to, people like Robert Hartwell and Susan Hyatt. It's a wide range, but there's a lot of the same principles that can be applied to any size of business.
So, what do you think is the biggest mistake that small business owners make, whether it's a service-based entrepreneur, retail entrepreneur? What's the biggest mistake people make with digital marketing?
With the ad side, I think sometimes it's running into it without an actual plan or a strategy, or understanding what their actual business numbers are before they jump in. So, if you have a 3% conversion rate on your website, you need to understand that. So for every 100 people you send to your website with ads, only 3 might convert. So understanding the math can also help you set goals that actually make sense. I've talked to people and they're like, I want to spend $500 and get 500 leads. And, at one point that might have been possible back in the early days of Facebook ads, but unfortunately nowadays it's a lot harder. It can happen, but it's not going to be
Those days were so fun.
I miss them sometimes. It's so hard sometimes these days, but you just have to go in with realistic expectations, because otherwise you are going to burn your money and not know what happened, and, not know where to really look at the numbers to figure out what went wrong.
So, how does someone know if they're ready for ads in the first place?
I like to tell businesses if you found an established audience, you know that your product can sell, you know that your website sells. That's the other aspect. If you don't know if your website sells, it's a lot harder to start running ads, because there's so many factors. We could drive all the right people to your website, but if your website is not doing a good job of selling them, it's going to be really hard to get them to convert, and then you're wasting your money. So, in order to not waste as much money, I say have an established business, know your product is has some sort of a product market fit, and your website is converting people that are coming to it. Then that's a great place to help scale your ads from there. You can always test if you're willing to, and you're willing to throw money at it and you want to test if your website's converting, go for it. But for those of you that want to be, hold your money a little closer and aren't ready to just throw money to figure out what's working, once you know your website can convert, that is a big factor.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I know that I have a good product. I'm
Mhm.
selling this product. My problem is I need more leads. I need bigger reach. I need a bigger audience,
Yep.
and then I can convert them. Is that right?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. So you've got the good product, you're ready to convert, and you're like, I think I'd like to throw some money at ads. A lot of small businesses are scrappy. Do
Mhm.
you recommend that people test or try ads on their own? Do they immediately hire someone like you? Is there something in between? Like, what's the best way to actually get started?
Depends on the business owner. I've met people that are very technically savvy, and so they can kind of jump in and figure it all on that out on their own. And then there are some people that are like, I have no idea what's happening when I log in. I need help. So I think it depends on you personally and how you feel about approaching new technology and trying to figure it out yourself. If you don't know what you're doing and really are like, help, this is really scary, I need someone, I can help you walk through it and we can do it together, and I can teach you and kind of show you these are the levers you should pull, these are the settings you should have. If you want to really jump in and do it yourself, then I think that's totally fine. Totally go test it. At least test the waters, before you go spend money to test to work with someone, which can start to get expensive. Test $500 and see what just driving more traffic to your website does for you. And then if you're starting to see some success, or you're like, that didn't work at all, I need an expert to come look at this. That's when I can come in and give you an audit and kind of look at what you've done and give you some ideas and kind of get the ball rolling to see more success.
People often ask me, like, how did you establish your business? And I'm like, through Facebook ads. And they're like, I don't understand. But truly, it was so cheap. None of the privacy stuff was set up. So you could like really get detailed in who you were targeting. And the tracking was all there with the cookies and like there was no opt out at that point. And there really weren't that many people in the space. So,
Mhm.
it was easier to get that share. And because I think the ads were a little bit new to the platforms, people responded to them because they weren't inundated, right? Like it wasn't like they were seeing so much stuff. And so I was able to fairly easily, I think, listen to some podcast episodes, read some articles, actually did even like a little Facebook ads course, and was able to do it myself. I will tell you, I have tried to run some Facebook ads, in the last 5 years, off and on, and it feels like a complete and utter shit show. I don't know what I'm doing. So I would love for you to kind of share with everyone, kind of explain how ads work in that, because I kind of feel like I've not got to a question yet. I kind of feel like it's harder now to actually understand what to do if you're not doing it full time, is what I
Mhm.
think I'm trying to say. And maybe I'm wrong. So I'm just curious from your perspective as someone who like does this full time, just understanding the algorithm and the targeting and all of that, and just how the landscape has changed
Yeah.
from even 5 years ago.
I'd say the one good thing is that a lot of the actual targeting strategies haven't changed. You still have interest targeting, you still have lookalikes, which take your existing audiences and they use that data to find other people. You have your retargeting audiences, like that's all still there. It's just in the back end, they've changed a lot of the settings. They've added some AI features, they've added other things that they're trying to have you do. They're trying to get you to spend more, really. They're trying to get you to do everything automated so they can make the choices. The tricky part with that is that, as with any AI, it can hallucinate and it can make things up, and you don't want that. So you have to be careful with some of those AI settings because it can pull random copy from your website. I had a client recently where the Black Friday code just randomly started showing up in February, and we were like, where did that even come from? That campaign is totally off. The current ads were not copied from that. We cannot figure out where it came from, other than maybe some of the AI features. So we turned them all, made sure they were all off, and went from there. So I think that's the trickier thing, is they've added more of these settings to try to get you to do everything automated. And the problem is that that's not always in your best interest.
What data is most important to you? Like when you are looking at ads and the performance, and are you, are they performing well? Because I know you said you were a bit of a data nerd. What's the data that you think is important?
So a big thing to make sure, and they have recently released an integration with Facebook and Google Analytics, which is huge. I've only gotten it in a couple accounts and haven't gotten enough data to really see how it can impact things. But that's a big part of it, because with the privacy settings, you're losing some of that data and that tracking that you used to be able to
Yeah.
get really granular with. So the best way to do that is by adding some tracking into your ads. They're called UTM parameters. Can Google it, or put it in AI, it'll tell you what to put in there. And then in Google Analytics, it'll better track your Facebook ads traffic. So then you can say, oh, I see people coming from Instagram are actually staying longer on my site and they're converting better. Maybe I want to put more money into Instagram placements and put them in their own campaign. Or you notice that a certain placement is bringing people and they're leaving right away. So you don't want that traffic, because sometimes Facebook will optimize towards the thing that's getting the most clicks, but that's not always the people that are actually engaging on your website. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
you want, the people that are engaging with your website and actually want what you're selling. So it's a kind of, you have to game it a little bit more. And I think that's the best way to look at it, is the traffic that's coming to your website. How are they interacting with it? Then you can feed that information into your strategy for your
Mm-hmm.
ad.
That's a great point. I actually remember there was a time when I was running ads and my leads, they were $25, which was might as well have been $2,500 back then. And people were like, that is horrible, but it wasn't horrible because that was a conversion rate to a $5,000 product off of a webinar alone. And so I had gotten it so targeted. Like I knew who was going to actually convert to what I was trying to do. I
Yeah,
didn't need high numbers. And I do think, yes, if you don't have someone who understands what's the actual end goal and, and what really matters, it's not just always like the lowest click if the click doesn't lead to something better.
exactly. And that's why I said kind of understanding your own business numbers before you even start ads, because then you can understand, like, yeah, hey, this lead magnet, I know when someone downloads it and they're in my welcome sequence, then they end up buying this $300 product or this $5,000 product. And that like can then pay back what you're spending on ads, even if it's leading to something free. So it's
Mm-hmm.
understanding those numbers and like the lifetime value of just getting someone on your email list. How long do they stay there? How often do they buy from you? How much do they spend? Because then that also helps offset the cost. So if it is costing you $20, you're like, oh, wait, but every one out of every five people I get is buying this $5,000 product. That's pretty good math. You spent $100 to
Mm-hmm.
get a $5,000 sale. Not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have a confession. I hate numbers. Not because I don't want to look at them. I'm just, I don't know, maybe they overwhelm me a little bit. And I'm just like, what am I looking at? But so here's the confession though. When, so where I was at with the health sabbatical, I came back, we're kind of doing the website stuff. And I've seen that Google Analytics like had to be updated and I've just never updated it. So I don't have any Google Analytics on my website at the moment. So yell at me and anyone else who's not doing this right now and tell us why that is absolutely unacceptable.
At a minimum, you need Google Analytics on your site. Shout it from the rooftops. Like I will always have it, because it's free. So it's not like, it doesn't cost you anything. Even if you're not looking at it for months on end, it is just there gathering data for you. And you can look at it when you're ready and ready to like confront the numbers. I know it can be a little scary, but having it there, gather that data. Even if you're not ready to run ads, put the pixels, the Facebook pixel, the Google Ads pixel, put it all on your site. That way the data is there when you're ready. Versus if you're going to start and then you have no clue who really truly who your audience is, where they're coming from, how they're getting to your site, because that's important even for organic. You want to know, is my email selling people? Is Instagram organic posting selling people? Is LinkedIn organic posting selling people? Whatever it is that you're doing, you'll better understand where your current people are coming from to your website and then when they're converting. So it's invaluable data. And then, like I said, you could not look at it for months, but at least it's sitting there and ready for you when you want to look at it.
I knew when I was like, should I tell Danielle that I don't have this right
You're
now?
like,
And I was like, I gotta
"Question."
admit it. I've got to admit it and let her tell because I know it's important. And I used to have it, so I know what it shows. But for people who have never set up Google Analytics on their website, tell
Yeah.
them what they're missing. Because I know what you're saying when you're like, where does this
Mhm.
come from? But for people who have never seen Google Analytics, haven't looked at it, haven't put it on their website, what kind of data can it actually show them?
So it will tell you exactly where people are coming from to get to your website, whether they came from, yeah, your organic social, whether it's from another website that linked to you, it's organic search. So someone found you from SEO, any of that. Like it will tell you exactly where they came from. Then it'll tell you how long they spent on your site, how much they clicked around, like how many, if they scrolled, if they clicked. If you have YouTube videos embedded on your site, it can tell you how much they're watching. Like you can get fancier with it, but at a basic level, it will tell you all of this without having to do anything.
All right, I'm gonna get it set up. I'm gonna get it set up. Thank you. I knew if I confessed it, I would also fix it.
But sometimes it's
So,
shocking. Sometimes it's what you think is driving things is not actually what's driving things. And that's what's really helpful is like our intuition is great. And I fully support like trusting your intuition when it comes to your own business, but you also need the numbers to support that intuition.
so for people who are thinking about running ads this year,
Mhm.
do you have thoughts on what's better or where to spend their money? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it YouTube? Is it Google? Like, are there certain platforms that are better for certain things or you think deliver a better ROI?
I think it depends on the type of offer you have or product you have. If it is something that people are searching for. So if you are a service based and it's like, I am a lawn care service or a pool service, like that is something people are actively searching for. You're a lawyer, like Google is going to get you better quality for a lower cost because you are hitting someone that is actively searching for what you offer, whether it's a
Mhm.
product or service. YouTube can be a really helpful place to expand your reach within Google. So many people don't realize that YouTube is actually the second search engine, second most used search engine after Google Ads. So Google owns number one and number two. And I saw a stat recently that even with all the AI kind of taking over, Google has maybe lost like 1% of search share with all of that. They're
Mm.
still at 89% of all searches happen on Google. So just to put it in there, the other stat I've heard recently is that there's more hours of watch time on YouTube than there is in Netflix every month.
Wow.
So people are there. Your people are there. If they are watching content that is similar to stuff you're trying to talk about, if even if it's just kind of adjacent to what you're doing, I run ads, but someone might be looking up things about analytics or things about just social marketing or marketing for their business in general. And then ads is kind of the next step. So thinking
Mhm.
about those kind of things, like what content is your ideal audience watching? And if they're on YouTube, there is a big value there. I'm very curious to see how, in the current state of the world, how kind of things start shifting. I think YouTube is going to get some more of that traffic because it is less political by nature, because you're going on, you're going to see the content you've subscribed to, you're going to see the content that's similar to the content you like. So it's a little less in your face than social media can be sometimes. But that said, I think Facebook and Instagram still are really valuable. If it's like a new product, you really just need to push in front of a ton of new people. That's where Facebook and Instagram is where you're going to find that audience because On YouTube, people are really less likely to click off because they're there to consume content. On social media, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. So people are going to click because they're used to that action of
Mhm.
going deeper with some content.
If someone's thinking about running ads this year, do you recommend that they hire just one expert that can even help them navigate which platforms they should be using? Or if they know their audience, like, do you go find someone who is like specific to that platform?
I mean, I'm partial, but I think it is helpful to have the knowledge of both because
Mhm.
when you get to a certain level, having both can really play a crucial role in the full marketing ecosystem, and they work together really well because
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram are more of like push in front of people, and YouTube a little bit too. And Google search is really like the pull. Someone is already searching for you, you're just pulling them in, you're like raising your hand, being like, this is what you need. So they
Mhm.
can work really well together. And I have worked with other agencies that like they're running Facebook, I'm running Google, and it can work well, but it is also then double the fees for you if you want to run both. You have to pay two different agencies. So if you know someone who can run both, which I can, my background is very widely in digital marketing, but I focus on the ads front because it's where what I enjoy the most. But I have
Mhm.
a full background and even understanding, your email marketing, your website conversion, all of that needs to play together. We can send a
Mhm.
ton of traffic to your website. People can sign up for your email list. If you're not sending them a welcome email, you've lost them. They're not going to remember
Yeah.
who you are. So it all has to work together.
Yes. Yes, it does. So, do you have any success stories? I would love, because I feel like there's probably some people listening who haven't run ads and they're like, am I ready for this or not? So I would love if like you have a success story of someone who is like kind of smaller.
I have a few different stories in mind, but one was a local business and they came in, they had started running ads a little bit, but they were mostly focused on like updating their website. And you can order online from this business. So you can order online, go pick up in store. So they just weren't seeing a lot of success. And I looked at the account and I was like, there's definitely opportunity here. Like I could totally see myself like, yeah, let me go order that online and I'll go pick it up later rather than having to go into the store and wait in a line. So we took over their ads, and within a couple of months, things had completely turned around. And now their online ads were very, very profitable, turned into like a 2, 3x return on what they were spending. But it was a lot of looking at what was working, what of the ads were bringing the right people to the website, and then taking that and expanding on it. And they just saw like that was one of my examples of 100% year over year growth all of a sudden. And we were like, oh, okay, so yeah, there is a value in making sure people are aware that this store exists and that they can order online and go pick it up.
I have found even when I run ads, like I can take certain things personally and I make up stories about them that are not true because
Mhm,
I'm not just looking at the numbers. And I feel like when you have an expert, they're truly looking at the numbers and the performance and can see things from just, yeah, just a more neutral,
yeah.
objective perspective as
Mhm,
opposed to because all of us who are small business owners, right? Like we're just so close to it.
of course. I mean, I feel that if I run ads for myself, it's really scary. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as it's not what I'm selling, it's a lot easier to like, yeah, take that personal side of it out and say, yeah, this is what's working, this is what's not. This might hurt you, but we need to shift the messaging because clearly it's not resonating or whatever it is
Right.
that's working right. But yeah, when you're the one who built your website and built the creative, it can it can hurt when it's not
Yes, it
working.
can. So, because I know this question is going to come up, budgeting for those who have not done it before, or maybe they've done it and they didn't like the result, right? Like maybe they feel like they've been burned. So, and obviously every situation's a little bit different, but I do think you can provide perspective on ranges of like what a minimum budget might be, both in terms of running ads as well as what you would pay an agency or someone like you to actually handle running the ads themselves, because those are two different costs. And I feel like a lot of people just don't have a good grasp of what something would cost to begin with. So they just don't even think of it as an option.
Yeah. If you really want to gather data at like a reasonable clip, I usually tell people $1,500 a month as a minimum, just
Hmm.
because when you're spending less than that, it just takes a lot longer to gather any statistically significant data to really make decisions off of.
Hmm.
Things come up, but like yeah, it's gonna take a lot longer for things to regulate. You're not gonna have enough conversions to really teach the algorithm. It gets really tricky. That said, I do work with some clients that have like real small budgets, but it works, so take that with a grain of salt, but have enough money in there to get data. So if you're driving people and you really want them to go for a paid product, that's going to cost a little bit more. So if you're
Hmm.
spending only $10 a day, you might not get a conversion every day. But if you're driving to something free, then that's a little bit an easier lift. And then, yeah, okay, you spend $10 a day, you might get 2 to 3 people to sign up for that free thing. So it's thinking about what you want to put forward, what that cost is, because if someone has to take out their credit card, that's an extra hurdle compared to just plopping in your email address. So 1,000 to 1,500, if you can swing it, I think is a great start. And then as you start to scale, usually agencies for full service to like run your ads, talk to you, give you all the reports is going to be 1,500 to 2,000, sometimes more, depending on the agency, and how much you're spending. Generally, you probably don't want to hire someone unless you're spending more than that because that is a significant expense. But also, if you're like, I want this completely off of my plate and I want to start it right and have someone scale it eventually, then you could also, I've had clients, like I said, that start out and say, hey, I just want you to run the whole thing for me. I'm not ready to spend $2,000 on the ads front yet, but I want you to get it started and scale it.
So, what are good questions for people to ask or what they should look out for when they are engaging someone to run ads for them?
Yeah. So a big one that I see all the time, make sure you are going to own the ad account. I've seen it countless times, both all over Reddit and just in general when I've talked to people, is that agencies will create accounts for you and then they will not let you have them when you decide to leave. And that to me is just bad business. Like you are the one paying, it is your ads, it is your data, you need to own it. So even if that means like someone's got to get on the phone with you to help you do all the settings because setting up some of these accounts is not always easy, they should be doing that because you need to own the account. So that is a huge number one. Number two, even if you do have access to the account, you need to be seeing regular reporting, not just cherry picked numbers that's like, oh yeah, the click-through rate was really great this week, but then they don't tell you that you had no conversions. Like you
Hmm.
need to be, whether you look at it or not, you need to be able to see all the data in some sort of digestible format, a report, an automatic report, and they shouldn't be cherry picking what you see and what
Hmm.
you talk about. You want open communication, whether it's, I would ask someone, if my ads are not doing well, what are you going to tell me? Because sometimes it's a hard conversation to have, but not every company like is going to see this massive success from ads. And I'd rather be upfront and tell you and say, hey, we're not seeing the results we want. Maybe you need to go rethink this, or maybe you need to take a break and redo your website, whatever it could be, but you shouldn't be putting tons of money in to get nothing back.
That is great advice. I love that because the first one reminded me of because I used to hear horror stories about people would hire like website designer, similar thing, right? And they're like hosting the website and have all the access and then they don't have it. And I'm like, why do you not have access to your website?
Mhm.
I didn't realize that was a thing with ad accounts. So
Well,
thank you for sharing that.
people like to
All right.
pretend that everything they have is proprietary, but
Yeah.
there's nothing really in the ads world that's that proprietary that you shouldn't have access to your own account.
This has been so helpful. If you all, and I'll put this in the show notes as well, but if you want to go find Danielle, her website is dmsquaredmedia.com. Her Instagram handle is Digital Marketing Danielle. And you have a free roadmap. Do you want to share the roadmap that they can grab?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things I work through with clients when they first sign on, and this is kind of walking you through that before you get to the step of running ads. it will also be helpful even if you are already running ads, because it walks you through the numbers you should understand about your business and how to figure out who to target. It does also walk you through maybe which platform you should start with based on a checklist, how to set your goals, all of these things that are really helpful to really set up your mindset and your numbers before you start ads, so you're not walking in blind.
Okay, I highly recommend everyone get that. And we'll put it in the show notes, but the link for that is dmsquaredmedia.com/roadmap. And even if you're like, there's no way I'm ready for ads, based, I guarantee you that you are still going to learn something, because I actually learned more about how to just market well through paid ads. I learned
Mhm.
more about my customers, my target audience, who actually will show up and engage on social media but will never buy anything, and those who will lurk but will totally buy. And I would not have learned any of that had I not run ads. So I recommend that even if you're like, I'm not even close to running ads, go grab the roadmap, because I guarantee you're still going to learn something from it, and it's absolutely free. So, um, Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you all have any questions about ads or you're thinking about running them, definitely reach out to Danielle. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.